Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. Now today I'd like to continue with part 2 and return back to the Ukraine and take a look at their lunch and dinner components. So let's get these out on a tray and see what they look and taste like. And welcome back to part 2 of this Ukrainian 24-hour ration. Now I've already started and preparing the lunch portion of the menu, and for lunch it is canned meat, tea, biscuits and sugar. Obviously these are the crackers that were left over from the breakfast. We had 2 packets exactly the same for the lunch and 2 packets of sugar exactly the same for the lunch, but obviously there's no point opening the other 2 packets when I've already got some open from breakfast. But this is what was designed for the lunch layout. So first off we need to take a look at the tea. So this needs a little bit of preparation, so it's just Kenyan black tea. So we'll just get that started. I've already pre-boiled the meat for 10 minutes in some hot water, so just a standard sort of tea bag that we all recognise now, and we'll just get that filled about half a cup. We'll give him half a cup, give it again the best chance. Okay, try and give it the best sort of opportunity. And again, this is from the breakfast. There is still very large amounts of sugar in the first packet, so again I should just add a little bit, about a teaspoon from that packet, and again save that. I'm sure we'll see these again in the dinner component because there's plenty left. And using the good old US MRE spoon, I'll just give that a little bit of agitation and just give it a couple of minutes to do its thing. And again we shall get a couple of the crackers out. Now this was seen in part 1 in the breakfast, exactly the same crackers, so we just use what was left over from there. And finally let's crack open this meat. Now there's a lot of spillage of fat as I cracked it. It's very hot, very hot. I've got a funny feeling I'm going to end up with fat everywhere, so I'm going to take my time, and I think I'll bring in a bowl just to empty that out there. So that's the contents there. As you can see, very heavily fat laden. And before I use that spoon in the fatty meat there, I shall just bring this tea bag out now. Wasn't in very long, but I've only used half of a mug, so should be ample. So first off, let's start with the tea. It's just black tea, no whitener. Again, personally I would like to see a little bit of whitener, but even without the whitener, it's a standard cheap store brand style tea. Doesn't taste quality tea, just a very basic black tea. Drinkable, personally I would prefer a little bit of whitener or milk, but like everything else in this ration up to now, not the best quality out there. So let's have a look at this meat. As you can see, it's just swilling in grease. It is literally just meat in grease. So we shall just take a little bit of the meat first. So it's very soft, very heavily processed, stewed. The meat has a liver taste to it. I'm not sure what actual meat this is. I'm assuming it is beef, although I probably shouldn't assume anything. There is a liver background taste to that. Very fatty, very nondescript flavouring. There's probably a little bit of salt in there, a little bit of pepper in there. The meat is soft, doesn't need any chewing, just falls to pieces in your mouth. Have a little taste of this fatty juice there. I think this is just beef fat that has melted from the heat. That's literally just what it tastes like, melted beef fat. Seeing the crackers from breakfast, they are a simple white flour cracker, baked fairly hard, not as hard as the Panzer plates, but still quite crisp. We should just drop one or two in the fat here. I'm assuming it is the way you would go to add some extra bulking agent. The actual juice is quite salty. This fatty juice has got quite a lot of salt content in there. So there's a lot of fat, big chunks of fat. Again, not the impression you're eating prime steak or prime beef of any description. More like the leftover scrag end, for want of a better word. Let's try a little of those crackers in the fat. Does add bulk, a lot of saltiness to it. Not again my favourite meal. It's meat, drain away the fat, you might be able to manage that. Very salty, very nondescript flavour of meat. Assuming it's beef, but that could be any form of meat. Let me taste the tea. So a brief, quick recap. Tea, middle of the road, cheap quality, does the job just about. Nothing more you can really say. The canned meat, not sure what meat it is. Heavily processed, swimming in fat. The fat has got a lot of salt. There's a lot of fat in the meat still. Personally, again, not a favourite, not enjoyable. Edible, but I would never go to it as a first choice. The biscuits, as always, plain, simplistic, white wheat cracker. Now for breakfast, the wet nap had dried out, so we have another wet nap. Let's have a look if this one has survived. Again, totally dry, no moisture whatsoever. Looks like it would have been a relatively strong one, but it's just, this is the second one now at the packet, and they're both absolutely dry. More like a piece of TP now, and totally useless as a wet nap. So I'm going to leave lunch here. Please join me for part 2 in a moment, where I take a look at the dinner. Bye for now. And welcome back to this third and final meal of this Ukrainian 24-hour ration. So this is the contents for the evening meal or the dinner. We have pearl barley with beef. We have a couple of sachets of honey. Again, there was 2 packets of the sugar, but these are still the ones from breakfast for myself. There was a tea, another wet nap, and again there was another 2 packets of the crackers. And I'm still working my way through the first pack from breakfast, so but again, rather than open them all, I shall just carry on using those, but there was 2 again. So let's see if we can make any improvement on the tea. For the lunch, I wasn't over impressed with the tea, but I think this time instead of the sugar I might add a little bit of honey to see, give it another chance, just something a little different. So again, the same Kenyan black tea, same as we just had for the lunch. And we'll do it again, about half a mug. In the UK we'd always have a full cup of tea, a full mug of tea, but just a little over half. Again, always want to try and give the best chance for these rations. And there is 2 packs of sugar, but there's also 2 packs of honey. So I think just to try something a little different, it feels a little bit crystalline, I shall just try some honey in the tea for a change, see if that will give it a little bit more of a flavour lift. Bringing one of my friends just to help open that packet slightly. So I shall just give it a little bit of this set honey. It's lumpy set honey. Again, I don't know how much to give it. We'll just give it half. Very gloopy, very set honey. Again, I'm not getting the impression this is going to be a good quality honey. And I'll just give that a minute or two. Bit of a mix around. We'll squeeze that bag. Okay. So I could have left that in there, but it is only half a cup, so half a mug should be long enough. Now we need to open the pearl barley with beef. Again, this has been boiling for 10 minutes in some hot water. Already cracked the lid to prevent any explosions, and this looks very similar to the breakfast, which is supposed to have been rice with beef, but this is supposedly the pearl barley. Let's just get this out. Very hot. Oh, burning my hands. It's very set, very thick. It's like a jelly. Oh, burning my hands. Oh, giving myself a lot of burn there. Okay, that's most of it out of that packet. I'm glad to get rid of that tin. So as you can see, very sticky, very gloopy, very heavy, stodgy. My word. Even the spoon is having difficulty breaking up those lumps. Heavily compressed into that tin. Okay, just try and break those lumps up a little bit. Give it a little bit of a chance. Not again the most appetizing look for a meal. So this is the dinner component, or the evening meal. So let's start with this tea again. This time it's got honey rather than sugar. To be honest, the honey's not added no sweetness. I can't taste. There's a little bit of sweetness there, but again, it's a very low grade tea. The honey has not added any extra flavour or done it any favours. It's not harmed it. It's not even as sweet as when I had the sugar. Again, it's just a very basic, very poor quality tea. I'm almost anticipating the joys of this one. It's a very gloopy, very stodgy, very sticky. As always, I report as I find. Oily, greasy, very, very similar to the breakfast, which was supposed to be rice and beef. Absolutely only basic seasoning, probably salt, pepper. Again, bland in flavour, not overly exciting, not overly impressive. Would do something like a little bit of gravy or something. Just something to give it a bit of moisture instead of salt and fat. The entire ration is evolved around salt and fat. It's lumps, sticky, rubbery, gelatinous, jelly. The meat has things like that attached to it. I'm assuming that's a bit of fat, but who knows. It almost looks like a piece of rubber glove from the factory. Actually, that might even be a piece of rubber glove. I'm unsure. This is certainly turning out to be one of the worst rations I've experienced to now. I'm going to stop eating that. Salty, fatty, gelatinous, certainly fill your belly if you can manage to eat all of this without it making you feel physically sick. I'm hoping that is a piece of fat off the meat, but it does look remarkably like a piece of rubber glove off the factory maybe, although the taste of it doesn't seem like a factory way they'd use rubber gloves. The biscuits I'm not going to go over again, except to try a little bit of the honey on one. We now know, very basic, very basic cracker. The honey is crystalline. But that's not necessarily a bad thing with honey. A little bit of runny honey in the end there. There's not a lot of flavour in that honey. The honey has got no nectar flavour, no flavour for the flowers, no wild flower taste like a good honey does. Again, I've not the most impressive honey. One last chance for the last wet wipe. And again, third and final wet wipe. Totally dry, totally useless as a wet nap. No moisture left on that. It is a year past its best before date, but I've used rations which are 9 years past their best and the wet naps are still wet. So, most useless wet naps out there. So, recap. Tea, even with honey, middle of the road, basic, not the best quality, just about serves its purpose, but that's all you can say. The honey, tasteless honey, even added to the tea, you could not taste it. When you taste it on its own, you could see why. There's not a honey, typical honey sort of flavour to that. Again, a very poor grade, low quality honey. The mains, pearl barley with beef, salty, gelatinous, heavy, it's rubbery, the texture is not good. That I'm still not convinced. I think it's a bit of fat, but it also looks like a piece of rubber, a finger off a rubber glove. Not very exciting, not very inviting when you find something like that in there. Overall, the Ukrainian 24-hour ration, in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, has to be the worst ration I have ever tasted. Every single meal, there wasn't a single thing that I would order again for first choice. If I was absolutely at starvation point and there was nothing else, you could live on it, but it wouldn't be a pleasant survival. All I can say is, this is no regard to the Ukrainian soldiers out there. Actually, it's a salute to you, gentlemen. If you have to fight and potentially die living on this, you are a seriously tough army and you deserve praise. So the Ukrainian army deserves praise. Your meals, unfortunately, do not. So, I'm going to leave it here. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification button for future videos coming very soon. So thank you and goodbye.